Right, so now we have 11.3. It says that 4 different economics books and 3 different life sciences books are required to be placed on a shelf. Now, let's say if you decide to place any book in any position, in how many different ways can you arrange these books, right? So we are trying to arrange these books. So how many books do we have in total? We have 4 economics books, and then we have how many books of life science? We have 3 life sciences books. So now we have 11.3.1. It says that if you decide to place any book in any position, so meaning that any book can occupy any position, right? So how many positions do we have in total? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Why 7? Is because we have 7 books in total. Now, remember they said that any book can occupy any position. So meaning that how many choices do we have to choose the first book here? It means that we have 7 choices because we have 7 books in total. Then now to choose the second book, how many choices now are we left with? Since we have chosen the first book, we are only left with 6 choices now. And then to choose the third book, we are now left with 5 choices, and then it goes on, and we have 4 here, we are going to have 3 here, we are going to have 2 choices here, and then we are going to have 1 choice here. So now that we have determined this visually, how can we interpret this? It means that this event here can happen in 7 ways, while the other one can happen in 6 ways, the other one can happen in 5 ways. So this is the same thing as saying that this is 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. So this is the same thing as saying that this is 6 or 7 factorial, I mean. So 7 factorial, if you can just use a calculator to determine what is 7 factorial. So let's just quickly do that. No, 7 factorial. So this is going to be, so it's 7, then say shift here, which is then 540, right? So we are going to have 540 here. So this is 540, 5040, I mean. So this is 5040. So quickly write this. So this is going to be 5040 ways. Right, what does this mean? It means that these books can be arranged in 5040 ways, right? So this is 5040 different ways, right? So we have now 11.3.2. It says that if 2 particular books must be placed next to each other, in how many different ways can you arrange the books on the shelf? Right, it says that if 2 particular books must be placed next to each other, right? So no, they were never specific about what about specific books, right? So it's just 2 plain books, right? So it say that if 2 particular books must be placed next to each other, in how many different ways can you arrange these books? So let's look at what we have here. So remember, we have how many books in total? We have 7 books. So we are going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spaces. Still 7 spaces, right? So now we must have what? We must have book number 1 occupying this, and then we must have book number 2 occupying this space here, right? So remember, book 1 and book number 2 can be any book, right? And also we can have a situation whereby we start with book 2 and then book 1. So now it means that these 2 books, they must always be next to each other, right? And then at the same time, you know that they can be arranged in how many ways? In 2 factorial ways, right? These 2 books can be arranged in 2 factorial ways. So what do we have? We can just write 2 factorial here. And then now what is left for us? It is just because we want these 2 books to move next, to be next to each other all the times. We can just treat these two books as one item. We can just treat these two books as one item. So it means that now we are going to have how many items in total? We are going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It means that now we have we have 6 books that are we have 6 items in total. And then how many ways can these 6 items be arranged? They can also be arranged in 6 factorial ways, right? Remember, these two books can be arranged in 2 factorial ways themselves, but then now just because we want these two books to be next to each other all the time, what can we do? We are going to treat that as what? As a single item, so that now when we count the total items that we have, it's more like we have 6 items, right? So these 6 items as well, they can also be arranged in how many ways? In 6 factorial ways. That's how we get the 6 factorial. Then when we put this into our calculator, what are we going to get? We're going to get that this is, so put this into your calculator. Now we are going to find that this is 2 factorial multiplied by 6 factorial. So this is going to be 1440. So this is equals to 1440, right? So this is 1440. So that's your answer there. So it means that these type of arrangements, they can happen in 1440 ways, right? So this is what we have here in 11.3.2. So now let's move on to 11.3.3. It says that if all economics books must be placed next to each or next to one another, and all life sciences books must be placed next to one another, in how many different ways can you arrange the books on the shelf, right? So now let's take this. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, 7, because we have 7 books in total, right? So how many economics books do we have? Let's take a look at what we have here. Remember, we have 4 economics books and 3 life sciences books, right? So these can happen. We have 4 economics books, so we can have E1 here, E2 here, and then E3 here, and E4 here. And as well, we can have L1 here. For life sciences, we can have L2 here, we have L3 here. Now, remember, because we want these books to be next to each other, so it's more like we're going to group this, because we want the economics books to be next to each other all the time, while at the same time we want the life sciences books to be next to each other all the time. So remember, these economics books, we have 4 economics books, and then E4 can be the first book, or E2 can be the first book, or E3 can be the first book. So it means that in how many ways can we arrange the economics books themselves? We can arrange these books in 4 factorial ways, right? So meaning that we can just write 4 factorial ways. And then for the life sciences books here, in how many ways can we arrange these life sciences books? These books can be arranged in 3 factorial ways. So we write multiplied by 3 factorial ways. Then, now, just because we want the economics books to be next to each other all the time, we are going to treat these as a single item. So it's more like we have this as a single item. And then just because we want the life sciences textbooks, the life sciences books to be next to each other, it is more like we have a single item here, because we want these books to be next to each other all the time. Then in how many ways now or in how many ways can we arrange the two items? We have 1, 2 items, and then in how many ways can we arrange these two items? We can arrange these two items in 2 factorial ways. So meaning that how can we get the total arrangement of this type? So we can just go to calculator again, and then now we are going to see 4 factorial multiplied by 3 factorial multiplied by 2 factorial. Right, so what do we get? We get 288. So 288, so we write 288 ways. So meaning that these can happen in 288 ways, which are different ways, right? So this is how many times we can arrange these books here.